Because I know the markets. I understand these areas really well. And as investors, we're trying to invest in things that have very big markets. And most VCs will tell you that, by the way, but a lot of VCs end up throwing that out the window when something hot and sexy comes along because it might have a very big market sometime down the road. The other thing is we're very focused on the product and the people. I talked about the obsession with the product. If you're not in a theme, and my guess is many of the people in this room, whatever you're working on, the couple of things that I heard, none of those were in any of our themes. For us, we use our themes to say no immediately. So as an investor, I want to spend no time with you evaluating your business if I'm not going to make the investment. I don't mind helping you in other ways. That's fine. But I'm not going to, if you're looking for an investor and it doesn't fit in a theme, it's an immediate no. So we like to say, we say no in 60 seconds, which then gives us time to spend all of our time on things that are likely we're going to invest in. And then we focus on evaluating the people and the product because we know the markets, we believe that they're big opportunities. The business models actually aren't terribly complicated. They don't change. You either sell software, you sell subscription, you sell advertising. Like there's a handful of things that happen that are ways that you make money in these businesses. And then it's, do we have conviction that this thing is going to be important and the people that are involved can build it long term? And then you have the second order effect for us is, do we want to work with them and do they want to work with us? So that's how we think about it. Another question. I'll try to go faster.
When naming your business, like how important would you say it is, for the name to be like clean, catchy? Because I mean, you hear like Foursquare, Yelp, Dropbox, those are all, pretty clean.
Yeah. So let me answer it with a joke. My first company was named, my last name is Feld, my first company was named Feld Technologies. Brilliant name. I do have the domain, feld.com, but that was before that mattered. One of my early angel investments, one of the first companies I funded in Boulder was a company that helped marketers publish emails. They were one of the very first email, in fact, they created the email service provider business. What do you think the name of that company was? Email publishing. So I'm not a particularly creative namer. Recently, I invested in a company that's now called Mobile Day. Any of you do conference calls on your cell phones? Anybody? If you do conference calls on your cell phones, go to mobileday.com, download their app. They got an iPhone, Android app. Give me feedback. It's early. It's a preview version. It's got bugs. It'll crash. Mobile Day, one word. Okay. Mobile D-A-Y. But I'm curious about your feedback. How many of you have been driving down the road on one of these freeways and tried to make a conference call and dialed 866-740-1260, blah, blah, blah. Welcome to Ready Talk. You have dial your 7-digit extension number now. And you're like, fuck. And you hit the bottom button on the iPhone, hit the calendar, look up to make sure you don't crash in something, memorize the number, hit the button again, go back to the phone, hit the hide keyboard or show keyboard, now the keyboard, and then it says, too late, and disconnects. Right? All the time. That happens to me all the time. This company, you see a screen of all your conference calls for the day, you press join, and it automatically does it, and it pulls it from your calendar information. So one-touch conference calling. Conference calling hasn't been reinvented in, the last time conference calling was reinvented was one-touch conference calling. How many people, or one dedicated number conference calling, how many people remember when to do a conference call you had to call an AT&T operator and manually set up a call, and people had to call into the operator and get put into the call? I was an investor in a company called Raindance, which was a company that essentially commercialized automated conferencing. You got a dedicated number. Now that's ubiquitous. But it's stupid how we interact with it. So that's what Mobile Day is doing. Now let me go back to your question. Mobile Day's first name was Schedule Me. Spell it for me. Nope. Try again.
S-K.
Up. No. SKEDUL.ME. There wasn't even a fucking E at the end of schedule. So they launch, and I go to the website, and it gives me a 404 error. And I send the CEO a note saying, the website's down. How can you launch the website's down? He says, oh, you put an E on the end of it. Like, will you please change the name? So, can you get away with a cute name? Sure. Is it hard to get a clean name? Sure. It's worth putting a little effort into it at the very beginning to get something that you can deal with. Let's do something on this side. Go ahead.
Because you're involved with both, what's the right and proper role of venture vis-a-vis
So I don't make angel investments anymore. I made them in 2 periods of time. I made them between 94 and 96 and 2006, 2007. Before we raised the Mobius funds, when I didn't have a fund, and then between when we stopped making new investments out of Mobius and when we raised Foundry. I made about 75, 80 angel investments over that period of time. Now, my agreement with my investors is I can't make angel investments. Everything has to go through Foundry Group for technology companies. I've got a handful of other investments, most in food companies, because I like to invest in things I can eat because I assume that the money's going to be lost. So I'm an investor in a chocolate company and a pickle company, and I'm making an investment in a popcorn company. It's just fun. Peanut butter, Justin's Peanut Butter. Anybody know Justin's? Yeah, I'm an investor in Justin's. They're doing well. The thing that I believe when I think about my role as an angel versus my role as a VC, as an angel investor, my job was to write a check very quickly, early on, help the entrepreneur any way I could get their business up and running, help them any way I could raise more money, and sort of lean in at that very early stage. And I look at the 40 angel investments I made between 94 and 96, and I probably led 10 or 15 of them where I wrote a $25,000 check, but then I rounded up the other $500,000 with the entrepreneur. It wasn't just me bringing up a pile of cash, but I made a bunch of intros. I had a spreadsheet I used to keep track of, and it would be like I just create a new copy of the spreadsheet of all my friends, and here we go again once I'd made that commitment. The other 25 or so, 30, I followed. I was one of the $25,000, $50,000 checks that somebody said, hey, I'm doing this, do you want to do it? Sure, I'm in. So as an angel, I always viewed my goal as committing quickly, and if I didn't want to do it, I said no to lots of things, but if I wanted to do it, commit quickly, and then you're on the entrepreneur's team from that moment forward, aggressively on the entrepreneur's team. I also had a strategy where I would always I assumed I had to double down one time before they got to a venture round. So I assumed I had to write another check of equal size one more time. And that served me really well because there's an awful lot of companies that don't raise enough money or don't get to that point where they can raise venture or the market dynamics shift around and they run out of gas. But if your syndicate, your angel syndicate knows that, and the people that invested with me played that way too, you can often give the company some more runway that gets them to that point. Sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes it does. But I had the discipline not to keep playing after that. So that was the strategy. But it was an entrepreneur's company. I was supporting the entrepreneurs. As a venture investor, I would say I have almost exactly the same point of view, which is I want to commit quickly. We describe ourselves at Foundry as syndication agnostic, which means we're perfectly happy to invest in companies by ourselves, and we're also happy to partner with other people. We're also willing to do multiple rounds by ourselves. So we don't feel the need to have a new investor come into the next round and validate the price. We're willing to price our own up rounds. We're willing to do another investment at the same price, et cetera. The one nuance is, as a venture investor, I only have one decision that I feel like I have to make about the company, and that's whether or not I support the CEO. If I support the CEO, I view that it's my job to do whatever the CEO wants for me to help the CEO and the company succeed. So if I support the CEO, I work for the CEO. Even though I'm on the board and I have a governance role and all of that, I sort of mentally decide, do I support this person in a leadership role? If yes, I'm not evaluating him or her continually. I work for them. And I do different things. Some CEOs want a bunch of stuff on a regular basis. Some CEOs don't want very much. And it changes around. So I have to be fluid in terms of that dynamic. And it changes over the life of the company. On the other side of the binary tree, if I don't support the CEO, I view it as my responsibility to do something about that, which does not necessarily mean fire the CEO. An awful lot of times, when I realize I don't support somebody, it might be my own problem. It might be something exogenous to the business. It might be something that I could help that person with, and that it needs to be confronted. Sometimes that does not end well, but there's always this period of time where rather than react to the notion that I don't support the person, I try to engage with, let me explain what's going on, express what's happening, how I feel, and let's figure out what we get. And I would say every now and then that results as a firm institutionally, or for me as an investor, in getting to a place where a CEO gets replaced. But when I look at our companies in general, we've made out of Foundry 40-something investments. We've had 2 situations where we fired CEOs of companies. So, and both of those companies, one of them is still going, the other one failed. I kind of believe that when you get to that point, for the most part, you're kind of screwed anyway. So again, this is part of our own strategy. We don't want to be in that place. So that's the nuance for me. That said, I think that both angels and VCs have very broad views on what their roles and responsibilities are. So you got my view. You didn't get the generic angel view or the generic VC view. And a mistake entrepreneurs make, and we talk about it in the book that's for sale in the back of the room, is that you don't recognize, you view angels or venture capitalists as a single archetype. VCs are a thing, angels are a thing. Wrong. There's lots of different archetypes, lots of different kinds of angels, lots of different behaviors, and lots of different behaviors in VCs. And one of the things that's so awesome about 2012 is it's much easier to understand what they're like than it was 20 or 30 years ago. It was total black box. You couldn't find information about anybody. It didn't exist. And recognizing that VCs have a propensity to say that they're always in the top quartile, almost by definition that people, they have a exaggeration bias on their performance, right? You hear about the good, you don't hear about the bad. But you know that, so you can filter against that. And oh, by the way, the web is not a very forgiving place for bad. So it's relatively easy to find bad as well as good. It's easy to reach out to people, especially if you're in a tight-knit community of entrepreneurs, and say, what about this person? And what about this firm? How's that work? So I encourage people to be aggressive as entrepreneurs in learning that. All right, next. Back.
Brad, I have a situation where there are some of these extremely fashion ideas that I want to launch. But paradigm shifting, great global ideas. I have 2 of them. One's in material science. I should do research in that. But the one I want to go forward with is in the IT realm, and it's beyond me. Because my experience has been in aerospace, composite materials, and research and development. What I'm positioning myself to do right now, immediately, as soon as possible, is to go forward with some other smaller products that I want to do quicker ROI, so that I can fund the bigger idea. I want to get my wheels turning. I'm prepared to sign with an incubator down in Orange County, and recently I went out to search for talent. I came across OC Hackers, and there's 7 of us here today. I just realized there's so much IT talent around me. Wow, this idea I had 15 years ago, now with cell phones, and you mentioned, who's got a smartphone in here? Okay, well, this particular application requires smartphone, and it's like, okay, anyway, so the idea was thought of when, I was thinking wires and so the technology is available now, but.
Question.
The question is, do you see any way to get investors interested in a small little accessory for an automobile? I'm passionate about that. It has all the green potential. It has ROI, just great. But is there a investment, a type of investor that would be more interested or open to a small single product?
Yeah.
Where everything seems to be in the world IT related, multi-million-dollar, otherwise you're below the radar.
So you can find an investor for almost anything. The trick is, it's hard. The second part is, it's hard. And the third part is, it's hard. And the magic in what you're doing if you go through the exploration of looking for an investor is recognizing this thing we were talking about before, which is you're looking for people who have an affinity for what you're doing, and you're not trying to convince people who don't that what you're doing is interesting or important.
The network, that's an established network
There's no established network is not the right way to think about it. Think about it as a chaotic system. And you're looking for a little bit of signal in all the noise. You wanted to add something to the mix.
Yeah, when we were looking for VCs or associates and affiliates in investing, 1 and 1 makes 3. So if you can find another company or another activity or another individual with common or similar thoughts and ideas and backgrounds, you're much stronger.
Yes, and so let me come back to this. Do not, I think it's well said, do not limit yourself geographically. You should be focused on the domain you're playing in. Get known in the domain. Leverage the ability to communicate broadly across the world in that domain. You're looking for somebody who's interested in that domain and interested in you and backing you. And if your answer is, I don't know anybody that's interested in me, everybody that I know thinks I'm a knucklehead, nobody wants to spend any time with me, that's fine. But that's probably not true. But it's hard. Go back to the beginning. So you've got to stay after it. The mistake so many entrepreneurs make, in my opinion, I get this every day. Somebody sends me an email for something that I'm not interested in. I very polite, and it's a pitch. Hey, Brad, dear Brad, would you like to invest in kangaroos that eat donuts? I've come up with a process for manufacturing them out of butter. No, I'm a software IT guy. Thank you, but it's not for me. No, come on, kangaroos made out of butter is the future. No, really, I'm not into kangaroos made out of butter. Well, what about kangaroos made out of butter aren't you interested in? Look, I'm a software IT guy, and as far as I can tell, kangaroos made out of butter has nothing to do with what I'm interested in. Here's what I'm interested in. Well, can you refer me to somebody who is interested in kangaroos made out of butter? And my response is, if I actually knew somebody that was interested in that, I might make a referral. But then often I'll say, look, I'm out, right? Like I can't help because I don't know you. I don't want to refer you to somebody I don't know. You're looking for people to build a relationship with. And you want to build a relationship just like any other human relationship versus view the investor as, I got to go find an investor who's going to write me a check. And that's it's a process, but go a level deeper. And that's why I say it comes back to being passionate about what you're doing. If you're passionate about what you're doing, even if it's the beginning part of a much larger vision, that's totally fine. This thing, you'll find people that have affinity for that too. You look like you're guarding me.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to, maybe one more question.
Yeah, sure.
You said 8:30.
Yeah.
And
I can go for, if you guys are happy, I'm happy to.
we got sushi come in, we got wine.
That's fine. I'm happy to do whatever.
Okay, so we'll do one more?
One more. Do 2 more. There's like all these people with their hands
Okay.
up. Okay. I want less emails. See, if I gave you my email, so if I don't answer the question now, I'm just going to get an email. I accept my future.
Where do you find these,
I'll do one from this side of the room last.
startup weekends and these accelerators? Those sound like a lot of fun.
Startupweekend.org.
What's that?
Startupweekend.org.
Startupweekends.org.
I'm on the board. It got started in 2007 in Boulder, kind of accidentally. The first one, I bought the pizza and beer. The guy who started it was working for TechStars at the time, a guy named Andrew Hyde. He sold it to these guys in Seattle, Mark Naylor and his partners, Frank and Clint. And they've turned it into a worldwide phenomenon. They're doing a couple of hundred a year. And they're awesome. And the way you do a startup weekend, if you want a startup weekend here, the way you do it is you do it. Yeah. You don't need a license. There's no franchise fee. You don't have to pay for anything. You just do it. So go to startupweekend.org.
Can you explain a little bit more? Is it like a bunch of groups come together?
Yeah, so the way Startup Weekend works is you tell everybody, we're going to spend Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and by the way, people have to leave or get bored, just leave. It's fine, I won't be offended. I just won't respond to your email. You show up on a Friday, people pitch their ideas. You have to pitch, you create ideas, you pitch into the group, people sign up with groups.